You are on the right track for sure. And it's gonna feel like this, like you said about HTTP requests, like you will have a lot of things where you will look at and you will think, what is this? I don't understand. I don't get it. That's like the most common sentence in my apartment, like here. Alright, so today I wanted to share with you a conversation that I had recently with one of my students, and it's a conversation about why you don't need to understand everything as a beginner. I see a lot of people online trying to learn every bit of information about software development, trying to go through all of these tutorials, all of this theory without actually making any progress. And you can spend years doing this, getting stuck on some theory, on some concepts in theory, without actually building anything useful, anything that could showcase your experience. So in this video, I'm gonna share a conversation with one of my students in just a bit. And after that, I'm gonna give you my strategy and books and ideas on the steps that you should do to get a job in tech as fast as possible. So let's get into the video. It happens all the time because there's so many technologies, so many things, and like, okay, I generally understand how software development happens and how things are built, but there still come up things, like new things that I'm like, how does this work? I don't get it. I remember first 2 years, at some point I was like, okay, I'm just like not making enough progress, and if I'm just gonna sit here and try to think my way into understanding what does this thing mean, I'm not gonna get anywhere. I have things that I need to do, and I just have to start to do them. You didn't need to understand what is HTTP requests or how they work before you were able to use them. You just needed to start to use them to see what happens, make some mistakes, get some responses back, and now you go back and look at it again and you're like, okay, I understand it. I realized in my first 2 years, like, it's so much easier to just not try to understand things beforehand, but try to go and do something and then come back, okay, now I look at this and I understand how it works. But if you try to force yourself into trying to learn this beforehand before you try things, it's very difficult to do that. I don't even know how someone can do that. And throughout your whole life, you've been trained to do this. In school, like, let's learn this theory and then let's do something. But you've been examined on this theory so much that you do very little practice. Real life is a lot about practice and not really paying attention to theory, because no one cares about what works in theory. Can you do the real thing? Can you build something? And that's how you actually learn the best.
I mean, like, that's how I see Python. Like, I mean, you're giving me the instructions, but how do I solve a problem? How do I do the task? That's all up to me, and like how I don't know, do the logic. So it's like, yeah, like I get your point. Like, I mean, I can revise the theory, but like at the end of the day, if I don't practice, then I'm not gonna be able to put it in. Like, I'm not gonna be able to. I know, but yeah, so far I think that it's all good. Like,
so with this idea in mind, let me share a quick book with you. I don't even think you need to read this. Let's take this concept out of the book and apply this to software development. How to learn anything fast. You need to break down a skill into smallest possible sub-skills. If you look at software development, what it consists of is multiple programming languages, multiple concepts. But my suggestion to you would be, start with one programming language and start with the basic concepts. Try to build some small scripts. Pick Python as your first programming language and just try to build something. That's the first thing that you need to do. Then over time, you will realize you will need a database, you will need some kind of front end. This is where you add more things to it, more sub skills. And you need to dedicate some kind of practice time to this. You're not going to learn software development just by looking at tutorials online. You need to practice daily, and you need to do short bursts of practice time. This means 1 to 3 hours a day coding without distractions. And when we talk about distractions, I've talked about this a lot on my channel. You can find videos where I talk about distractions and how to get rid of them. But the main idea is that you need to remove everything that gets into the way of your coding time. your practice time. You need to remove all of that. And at the end of it, yeah, of course, you can do all of this above on your own, but you need some kind of feedback. You need to get a code review from someone. You need someone to tell you where you are making mistakes. And you need to have this feedback loop happening all the time as you're learning, as you're doing the practice. Because if you're going to do this on your own, you're going to get stuck in your own bubble and you're not going to see your own mistakes. I wanted to comment on this, what you said, this process of solving problems one by one. It's going to be the same process for every Python or software development project. You start with small things. You don't try to solve the whole thing right away. You do first steps and try to add a bit more on top of what you already have working. And that's how it works with everything. So I hope you saw in my videos that I do the same thing. I start with very simple things and I build on top of them and I end up with optimized final version. And the problem that you usually face, and I do this myself when I have to do things fast, when I'm eager to move forward very fast and solve problems very fast or build something very quickly, and I kind of ignore these principles that you have to move on step by step. You have to frequently optimize your code, otherwise you end up with a messy project that you don't understand yourself what's going on. And every time I ignore these principles, these rules, I end up with problems, mistakes, and I have to go back. And if you realize that you're not going to move faster just doing everything in a messy way, it's the opposite. If you're going to be organized, if you're going to plan for things, if you're going to keep yourself accountable, that you have to keep everything clean, you have to understand every line that you're writing, then you will actually reach the goal faster in a better way. So that's pretty much the main idea of what you need to do to get a job in tech as fast as possible. Pick one thing, pick Python, start doing things today, don't waste your time. And if you need help, find the guidance or find mentorship from someone. If you're not in contact with anyone in software development, you can find my contact details below. You can send me a message and we can discuss how I can help you on that.